we know how to deal with what he has, you know, that we know how to deal with that. And I'm just hoping and praying that this will be something that benefits.
Well, of course I'm nervous. I've been saying that I'm nervous. Like, who else? Who wouldn't be nervous? Like, there's always a slight possibility, the drama and the doubt in your mind, but I just have to realize that it's gonna be all right.
Hey friends, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is Monday, July 31st, 2023. So in August, on August 20th, the next season of Sister Wives will be coming to air. And as we're learning, as we've been seeing, the family is under destruction. And one thing that we've learned in the last several months since season 17 is that a lot of what you see on television with the Browns is completely fake or scripted or reenacted, and we've been able to pull holes in some of their storylines. Now, there's been a lot of news recently about Kate Gosselin and John Gosselin and their massive custody war and arguments about kids filming on the show. And Colin Gosselin basically coming forward and saying, listen, I didn't want to film, and so my mom stuck me away at this place. And I was acting out because of filming and other stuff going on in my house that my mom was doing to me. Well, the Browns didn't stick their kids away in a place, but they did force an adoption. And there's a lot of parallels here between what happened to John Gosselin and what happened to Robyn Brown's ex-husband. And I have some court records and some text messages that she actually submitted to the court as proof of her case for why her ex-husband should lose custody. And it also gives greater insight into what happened to Dayton and how they used an accident that was not caused by Preston and apparently happened while Dayton was with Kody, that Kody wouldn't pay for, but he agreed to pay for only if Preston would give up custody. It's so manipulative and it's kind of sick. And then you realize there's a storyline here that they were selling on national television. They had deep pockets. The storyline was a part of the show, meaning they got paid by TLC as a part of the storyline. So there was incentive for this to go in TLC's favor and the kids to be on the show, adopted by Kody, but it all comes down to money and filming. Let's dive into today's topic. Before we do, can you please do me a big favor and give this video a thumbs up? Also, please subscribe to my channel, but if you have not yet subscribed, by clicking on the subscribe button down below, click on the bell so you can get notified of any time I go live or new content loads. Leave a comment if you have something to say and share this video with your friends. So back in season 8, episode 1, we learned about how David Jessup, now Dayton Brown, had an accident while he was in, Robyn claims, out of town with friends in an ATV situation, and that he had to go to the hospital. He had to have all these different procedures. He even had to go on later to do another procedure to try to repair the eyelid. There was a lot that he went through. On the show, she says that he was out of town with friends when this occurred. Now, this led a lot of people to believe that it occurred while he was up in Montana visiting his dad. And so for years, people have assumed that Dayton was in Montana when he got into this accident and that it was his dad's fault. And so Robyn was like the martyr mom that was dealing with this. But last year, I got a hold of Clark County's clerk in Las Vegas, and I got a copy of a lien that was placed on Robyn's home back in 2013. And it states that David Jessup, who is Dayton Brown, this was before the adoption because this occurred in 2012. So his name actually his legal name at birth was David Jessup. He was hospitalized between the 22nd day of November 2012 through the 24th of 2012. He was in Las Vegas when this happened, meaning he wasn't out of town, because they would have taken him to the closest hospital, given the severity of what happened to him, okay? This was an emergency situation. And so they placed a lien on her home for $31,000. So the lien was placed on her home, And so she had to pay. Now, this was because she didn't have proper insurance for her kid. So on the show, we hear about how, he's out of town. This proves he was not out of town. He was literally in Las Vegas. So fans suggesting that this happened when he was out of town in Montana, absolutely false, because Montana Pinesdale is hours and hours and hours away. And given the severity of what happened to him, they would have not waited to track him down to Montana. And in fact, text messages that Robyn sent to Preston prove that his dad knew nothing about the situation and tried to get information from his son when his son finally visited him in December of 2012. So Robyn filed a motion in 2015 to try to get Preston's custody terminated. Her argument to the judge at the time was that he was back on child support, he owed her money, he was not seeing the kids, and the kids didn't want to live with him anymore, and they didn't want to see him, and that he was a horrible person, and all of these different things. I got all of these court records several months ago, and I haven't talked about this side of it because when we first talked about the divorce, it had to do with all of her debt. Well, the custody issue was such a mess. And so she had a storyline that she needed to fill in TLC. They created this, Kody needs to adopt the kids. Kody, her ex-husband, is a bad guy. He took her purity. He's a bad, neglectful ex that doesn't pay his child support. He doesn't want to see his kids. The kids don't even like him, that kind of thing. So the evidence that she provided to the court when she filed for them to suspend or terminate his custody, she provided text messages between her and Preston, and it's supposed to be proof that he either made changes to the plans or he was being difficult in seeing things or that he was doing things detrimental to the well-being of the children. There was a text exchange in early December of 2012, right before the kids went to go visit Preston. So remember here that they went to go visit Preston over the holidays in December. He had just been in the hospital. Dayton had just been in the hospital in November. And so she says to him, I really need you to be positive with Dayton. He has just begun healing. I need his mind to stay positive and to look bright on the situation and not become a victim. Everyone around him is telling him how cool and tough his scars will look. He needs that from you and your family too. Please help him make sure this isn't a stumbling block for him. So that was sent in December of 2012, right before they were about to have custody exchange. And Preston responded, sounds good. And then he was going to have the kids until December 30th. He had the kids. Everything was fine. They did the custody exchange. And once they dropped them off on the 29th, she sends him a message because Preston asked Dayton while this visit happened, what happened in the accident. And so this is what Robyn sent to him. I cannot believe how upset the kids were when I picked them up. You lying to the kids, dragging them into adult issues, and upsetting them is really not emotionally healthy for them. If you need to know anything about Dayton's accident, you just need to ask me, the parent. You never asked me anything or called to check on him. He said you were cornering him and kept twisting his words. So did Aurora. Our parenting plan states that we are supposed to not drag them into adult issues. I need you to make this change. If you can't, then I will. Get the judge to make sure you do. Another thing, the kids are tired of you pressuring them to live with you. It's a moot point anyway. The judge will never justify it. So she has claimed on the show that David never wanted to see the kids, Preston never wanted to see the kids, and she's telling him to stop pressuring them to move in. But then she's also getting mad at him for asking his son about what happened in his accident, which doesn't actually seem like a super intense question to ask a kid. Like, hey, what happened? But of course, if he asks Dayton, he might actually get the truth. And if he asks Robyn, he might get a watered down version of what happened that might be protecting someone. Now, I spoke to a source connected to Preston, and they had let me know that Dayton actually was with Kody and some of the boys, I guess, when this all took place. And he had very little experience. He had never been on an ATV before, and he had actually driven the ATV into a barbed wire fence. And as a result, he got very hurt. And Kody was there, allegedly, and one of the biggest issues that he was trying to get around was who was he with, what happened, what's going on. And obviously, any concerned father is going to want to ask their kid that. I mean, Dayton at this point was, a teenager. It wasn't like he was super young and couldn't answer basic questions. And then she's threatening to threatening the judge over him, that if, they don't do this, blah, blah, blah. So another thing that I noticed as I was going through the text messages is that a lot of times Preston would contact her for a call and she would say things like they were filming. So she would say that they were interfering, like, for instance, on August 19th, 2012, he tried to call her, and so she responded to the call through a text and said, "We are filming right now. They can't take your call. We're busy all week at Disney and then other activities. Can I call you next week?" So he tried to call his kids in August of 2012. She wouldn't allow him to speak because she said they were filming, okay? Another one happened, he called again on August 26th, and she said, "I'm working. Kids aren't with me. I want to set up another time to talk." And then November 4th, 2012, she said, he calls again and she responds via text, "We're in the middle of shooting and I can't take your call. Do you want to try tomorrow?" Okay. November 11th, he's asking about Christmas presents, okay? And then on the 22nd, the day of the accident, she sends a text message that says this: "I need to call you in a little bit. My phone is dying. I'm going to call you from Kody's phone. It's an 801 number." That was his, area code. And he says, his response was, "Well, now is a bad time. Would tomorrow be okay?" And she says, "No, it's an emergency, Kay." So the day of the accident, she's calling him with an emergency, proving that Preston was not there and that she was going to call from Kody's phone. They're continuing to talk about custody. So the plan was that he would go and meet them on December 22nd of 2012, and then they would stay with him through the 30th. For months, he's trying to arrange things with her. Every time he's calling her, she's like, "We're filming, we can't talk," okay? And, she writes this petition about how he doesn't want to see her, but when he sees them in 2012, after the accident, he asks them if the kids want to live with him. Robyn shoots back and is like, "You're pressuring them," okay? Well, come to find out, apparently Preston allegedly finds out that the accident occurs with Kody. And so because the accident occurred with Kody, Dayton has Asperger's syndrome or autism, and he believed that, he should have been monitoring Dayton more because he wasn't experienced on an ATV, that Kody should be responsible for paying for the medical bills given the fact that it happened when he was with Kody, allegedly. Well, over the years, they had some disagreements about whether or not he would pay his child support because Robyn and Kody were making a lot more money than him for a very long time. At one point, Robyn even suspended the child support requirements through the state. She closed it because she was literally on food stamps. And from 2013 until 2015, her lawyers would send him letters saying, you need to pay to see the kids. But when you actually look through these records, you actually see that on November 19th of 2012, 3 days before his accident, Dayton's accident, the state of Montana says that he is no longer required to pay any child support. So it says, "Please take notice that the Child Support Enforcement Division, an agency within the Department of Health, is no longer providing enforcement services for current child support in the above case pursuant to Montana law, and you are hereby notified that the assignment of support payments previously entered herein is terminated effective November 19th of 2012. This was signed on the 23rd, a day after his accident. So he was terminated by the state for having to pay and enforce that child support order. So under this letter that he received, he didn't believe he owed any money for child support or for medical expenses because she terminated the case. But then they came back and asked for all this money, which then got us to the point where the letters from the attorneys keep going. By February 2nd, he's been fighting with them to see them. He's been struggling because Robyn's disparaging him on the show. At this time, this is when Robyn goes on the show and basically accuses him of stealing her purity. By February 2nd, and also, mind you, this is the storyline is being filmed right now. So they're been literally told that they need to give up. Like, the storyline is he needs to live with us. We want to live with Kody. We want Kody to be our dad. So according to Robyn's petition, things started drastically changing with Preston in 2013. Well, her episode accusing him of basically essaying her and DV aired on August 25th, 2013. And for 6 seasons, she had been disparaging this man and calling him an abuser. And it says, in 2013, petitioner did not exercise spring break. In summer of 2013, she and her now husband, Kody, took the children to Idaho Falls to meet the petitioner for summer exchange. He kept the children for 2 weeks. Petitioner did not ask for any more time that summer. Now, no one heard from the petitioner until January of 2014. Robyn was very upset when the petitioner finally did get back in touch with her and the children. Petitioner informed Robyn that he had been in Guatemala and he was not able to call. Petitioner indicated that he was under no requirement to tell her or the kids when he moved, and he also stated that he might be moving to Guatemala permanently. Robyn confronted petitioner about not paying child support and medical bills. Petitioner indicated that he did not have to pay, and he had no intention of paying since there was no longer a CSED case forcing him to pay. So he didn't believe he had to pay. And so he stops talking to her and stops communication from the summer of 2013 until January of 2014. And he wants to move out of the country. Why do you think he wants to move out of the country, folks? Could it be that Robyn was on a show on national television accusing him of SA and DV, and then he doesn't think he has to pay, and she keeps telling him that he does have to pay? It's so sick how she manipulated the courts in this way, and it makes me feel so bad, and it just shows to me how manipulative and alienating and destructive Robyn is. Robyn's slander and defamation of him on the show even frustrated him to the point where he struggled to even communicate with her, and she said that he referred to her as reality bitch. So it says, during his visits, the petitioner is extremely demeaning when speaking about Robyn. His phone has her listed as reality bitch. Petitioner's family is also very unkind when speaking about Robyn. Petitioner tells the children they are too expensive and informs them of things he cannot buy them when they are with him. Well, because they now are on a reality show, they're getting all these free trips. Kody is spoiling them with trips to Disney, and he's basically love bombing them. And Miss Reality Bitch is accusing him of abuse and sexual abuse with no proof. How do you think Preston felt? I'm just wondering here. And the way it's framed in these court records, you just take her word as what it is. But he had a story too. They contact him February 2nd of 2015, and they ask him if he'll just relinquish his rights. So after 3 years of him believing he didn't have to pay because she closed the child support case, her lawyers threatening to restrict his visitation, him not believing he could see the kids because they kept saying you need to pay your child support and then you can see the kids, her disparaging him on national television and calling him a DV, or where there's no proof of the ATV accident where they're forcing him to pay for something that he doesn't believe he has to pay for because she closed the case. They finally contact him and they want him to relinquish his rights. He still hasn't paid the medical expenses because, one, my source says that Preston is still fighting with Kody to pay them because he believes that it's Kody's responsibility. Even though he has to pay half the medical bills, it's Preston's belief that this accident happened allegedly with Kody, so Kody should be the responsible party here, not him, because he wasn't even there. And he believed it wouldn't happen had he been supervised or whatever. The children, Kody and Robyn, all desire that Kody adopt the children. I know this would not be easier for you, but I think it's in the children's best interest. Robyn and Kody have no desire to keep you out of the children's lives if you and the children wish to resume visitation. However, this arrangement cannot be part of a legally binding agreement. So they tell him, hey, listen, you can still see the kids, but we can't promise that to you legally. The children have a strong bond with Kody and the other kids in the family and wish to be adopted by Kody. We're hoping you agree to allow the children to have this without a drawn-out battle. You owe over $30,000 in medical care and over 30 months, $5,000 in child support. Kody is willing to pay those costs if he adopts the children and would not need to litigate the issue separately. If this is something to which you would agree, please sign the relinquishment in front of a notary public and send it back to my office. This would distinguish your legal rights to the children and also any financial responsibility. If you would like to discuss this matter, you can call me at the number above. So they also had to transfer the case down to Nevada from Montana. So basically, in order for him to get Kody to pay, Kody's like, well, listen, I'll pay for it, but you need to give me the rights to the kids. They tell the kids that, their dad doesn't want to see them. He doesn't want to deal with them. Meanwhile, another issue that was going on during this exact same time, according to my sources, was that Preston and Robyn were privately having arguments about filming. He was not on board with the kids being on reality television. He didn't want them to have a public life like that. He didn't want them to face the backlash and ridicule of being public polygamists. He didn't want them to get bullied in school. He believed, allegedly, that the kids it would be detrimental to them. And Robyn would apparently explain it away and say that they were getting opportunities, the money was good for them, the family was getting trips and all of this exposure, and the money was providing them a more comfortable life. So she was not on board with them not filming. And so there's two issues here. Preston doesn't want them to film. Kody and Preston are fighting about this medical bill. So finally it comes to a head, and it's like, well, we'll pay for this accident that Kody allegedly caused. All you have to do is give up parental rights, and we'll still let you see the kids. So my source says that he reluctantly agrees to it because, one, they have TLC's narrative and they have TLC's pockets because all of this is playing out on television, and so TLC is paying for it. And he doesn't have that kind of money to fight the book. He doesn't have that kind of money to fight that kind of fight. He doesn't have a network making a storyline out of this to pay for his attorneys. So he reluctantly agrees to it under the stipulation, one, that he'll still be able to see the kids, and two, that she'll stop disparaging him on national television because she had basically accused him of R-ing her by stealing her purity, which wasn't true, and had been accusing him of abuse, which also wasn't true. And if you actually spend any time in their divorce, you don't see a single allegation of anything like that in any filing. There is not a single allegation of a ABUSE by Preston or DV of any kind by either party, period. It was like money and just irreconcilable differences. No allegations of DV. You would think if that was happening in a case and you wanted custody, you would be accusing your ex of being like that. But there was none of that at all. Even in the motion to suspend and terminate his rights, nothing about that. So apparently all he wanted was for her to stop disparaging him, accusing him of doing bad things to her and to the kids, and that he would get to see the kids. And that's what they agreed to. And he apparently has not seen the kids since, I don't even know, 2017, 2016. The visitation didn't last long. And the source that I talked to said that she has basically brainwashed the kids to believe that he's a bad guy. They've alienated the kids from him, and he's now dealing with a serious illness. He has a form of leukemia. The kids have no clue. They've not contacted him, and anytime he tries to reach out, apparently they don't respond. He doesn't even know if they are getting the messages. Other family members have talked to me, like his niece, and said if I try to contact, they don't respond to me. So they don't talk to anyone in Montana as far as like the family goes. And that's sort of the story here. John Gosselin faced similar situations where TLC also had incentive to get the kids to be on the show, and so they fought him for custody, and she ends up getting custody. Same thing with Robyn. If there's incentive for him to, if there's two parents fighting about filming, the easiest way is to get one of those parents out of the picture by giving up legal rights. Because why? Because if one doesn't consent, then there's no filming going on. And so they basically blackmailed him to, we'll pay for the medical expenses that we caused as long as you give us the kids, but we'll still let you see them. But then they didn't hold true to that statement. And there's documented proof in the text messages that Preston wanted to see the kids and tried to see the kids and loved his kids. So it's a sad story all around. And given the severity of what he's facing right now, it's just truly, it's heartbreaking to know that in the middle of such a very difficult battle in his health, that his kids, one, haven't had any contact with him. I did ask a family member and they said no, and that they might not know, and he could pass away and he'll never, and they will not know. And they might not even know the truth about all of this until years later, about the depths of the alienation that took place here. It's really sad. And unfortunately, men in these kinds of situations can't win, and oftentimes, especially and then you had so many factors here: TLC, the cult, all these different things, money imbalances. My heart goes out to Preston, and honestly, my heart goes out to the kids because they've been lied to. It's so clear. And her just leveraging the court and don't corner them. Like a dad can't ask a kid about his own accident. And then to go on national television and make it seem like it happened out of town, sort of with this underlying implication that it happened with his dad, when the accident for sure never happened with his dad. He didn't see his dad until after it happened. He wasn't there. Preston wasn't there. It happened in Las Vegas. It was an emergency situation, and he was at a Las Vegas hospital not long after the accident happened. He wasn't out of town. They lied. What else have they lied about? Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye, guys.